The market is dipping. What am I doing? Let's jump straight into it. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are back with the 0 to 6 figure series. As you can see on screen, like the market is dipping. You can look at the last 24 hours. ETH is down 8%. Some of my other alts are down like 12, 15, 18%. And yeah, we're getting wrecked at the moment. I mean, you can see like the Bitcoin chart. We did actually top out at just under like $74,000. So we did break all-time high again, and now I think this must be like an 8-9% drawdown now. Yeah, about 8.5% or so. Yeah, 8.76% drawdown, and like we're back in this range that we were in back in early March. So like one of the things that I'm thinking now is like, will we just kind of chop around this area, this kind of zone that I've basically highlighted between like the 64 and 69 range, before eventually mounting back another climb back over past the 2021 all-time high? I don't know. Let's wait and see. But I think like some argue like this was coming. I mean, if we look at like the meme coin mania, look, we saw like Whiff, like these guys, Ansem and a few others kind of fundraise some money to go and put Dog with Hat on the Vegas sphere. Like things like this certainly at times can feel a little bit like a euphoric area. And just want to say props to this guy, Block Grays, who basically bought Dog with Hat for like, I think he paid, $1,155 back in November last year. And he's actually sold a quarter of his bag for around 1.65 million. And you can go and verify that on chain as well. Props to him. Good for him. He took some profit. But yeah, I think like after seeing things like this, you could argue that actually, maybe things were getting a bit too hot. And I think just to basically confirm that, I mean, if we look at, bear with me, let's have a look at the market and validator. Look, funding rates were like sky high. We had like orange and like almost red, like pretty much across the board for the last couple of days, actually, especially on the 12th of March. And now since the market has pulled back, like funding rates have kind of reset. We're back in the green zone, which is good to see. Basically, the closer to green or blue, I should say, is basically negative. So yeah, green is good. Like I think that's healthy. We did need that. I mean, we can see like in terms of news, I believe, not news. Maybe it's futures. Some of the liquidations that we have actually seen, particularly over the last couple of days. So some people were leveraged quite a lot, but it's good to see like funding rate reset, liquidations and leverage has been reset. That's healthy. We need that if we want to kind of build a sustainable bull market. So that's pretty much what's happened. I think it's also interesting to touch upon the ETF inflows because this week's been pretty insane, actually. So a few days ago, I think it was the 11th of March, we saw $500 million of inflow. Then on the 12th of March, we had the biggest day since inception with $1 billion of Bitcoin inflows. So that was absolutely nuts. And then the day after on the 13th, and almost 700 million. Yesterday, not so much. I mean, still a decent result because it's still positive, 132 million, but like significantly less than some of the previous days. And I think perhaps people are realizing that, ETF inflows can potentially become outflows at one point. People will want to be taking their profits. I mean, I think Bitcoin price is like almost doubled potentially from the 11th of January. Let's have a look. How much are these TradFi guys up from the 11th of Jan? So 11th of Jan we were like 42,000, and then we actually went back down to $38,000. So like, I mean, these guys are up massively. These guys that have been buying like end of Jan, they were like literally almost 100% up. So like even right now they're still like 60-70% up. It's natural for them to want to be taking some profits. They're not used to the euphoric gains that we see here in crypto. So yeah, I think that's pretty much like what I think of the market. Like as I mentioned, I wonder if we do just like chop around this area for a bit before kind of going back up again later. I mean who knows. But I think like this was inevitable. You can see the red across the board here. Like even for like the big caps. Let's have a look on here. If we look at cryptocurrencies, I mean, look, if Bitcoin and ETH are going to be down, 10%, then like obviously your layer ones, your alt layer ones are going to be down 10%, maybe even more. And then as you go down the risk curve, you're going to see some like minus 20%, and maybe even some minus 25%, like you've seen in my portfolio with some of the low caps. So in terms of like what I'm doing, I mean, I'm pretty happy with my portfolio right now. Look, I have ETH. I have Say as like my layer one bets. I've got good DeFi exposure with Gearbox, Redacted, and FXS. I've got good AI exposure with the Autonomous and BitTensor, Shadow and Sinesis One. I've got layer two and ZK exposure with Polygon. I've got NFT exposure. I have infra exposure. I have LST exposure. I mean, you could argue that, look, there are still a few categories that I don't have exposure to. I mean, gaming is not really my forte, so I'm not going to say that, I'm really strong at it and I know like which altcoins are going to be the winners there. Yes, I know like there's the likes of Immutable and probably some of the other bigger gaming studios that people like, but I don't know too much about it. So that's one thing that I'm not sure about whether or not I should add. You could argue that I could potentially add modular exposure. Maybe I have some already via Polygon, but let's see. I think on that regard, I think with the EIP 4844 upgrade, I wonder if like that was kind of bearish for Celestia and other modular like crypto assets. But then otherwise, like in my portfolio, I don't really see any particular sector that I'm not really exposed to other than the Bitcoin ecosystem. So I think the Bitcoin ecosystem might be one that I explore at the moment, but otherwise I think I'm fairly happy. I mean, the portfolio's around $42,000. I mean, it's a little bit of a drawdown, yes, 10-15%, that's normal. I mean, last cycle I remember having drawdowns of like 40, 50, 60%. I think even at one time I was 80% down and still ended up making 10x on that particular altcoin. So this is normal, this is part of the cycle. Am I buying the dip? Yes, I have just bought another Tau, so I just wanted to build that position up, and I think I probably will continue to build my BitTensor position up a little bit more. But I'm happy like with my overall AI exposure being around 25% of the portfolio, which is really nice at the moment. So yeah, otherwise I think I'm generally pretty happy. Can't really complain. Nothing really too much to change for the moment. I will be happy if we get more dips because that means I can buy a little bit more. But ultimately, I think in the long run, things are going to go much, much higher.